Australians are now buying more new clothes per person than any other country, according to new research from the Australia Institute. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. It says on average, Australians are buying 56 new items of clothing a year. The US is a close second with 53 and then jumps down to 33 items for those in the UK. Now, it's estimated 1.4 billion units of new clothing come into the Australian market each year, with 200,000 tonnes of it eventually ending up in landfill. Fast fashion is thought to make up the bulk of this waste, with the average price of these items sitting at just $13. Despite this, researchers found Australians do have concerns about the amount of textile waste, with 2/3 worried about the impact on the environment. So what's fueling the purchases and what measures are being put in place to address the waste problem? Nina Gbor is the Circular Economy and Waste Program Director at the Australia Institute, and she joins us now. Nina, thank you for coming in. Now, can you tell us how you got to this figure, an average of 56 new items a year for Australians?
Yes, that figure is actually from the Australian Fashion Council. And so they came out with this figure in a report, I believe, in 2022. And looking at that report and other research reports online, we realized that Australia is actually the highest and biggest consumer of textiles in the world per capita.
Did that surprise you, Australia's placing there?
To be honest, no, it didn't, because we do have quite a high standard of living. And if you look at, over 200,000 tons of textiles end up in landfill every year, it's actually not surprising, sadly to say.
What evidence was there in these figures that it was fast fashion?
Well, there's a research done by Roy Morgan that this year alone, two of the biggest fast fashion brands are set to make over $2 billion in sales in Australia alone. And that's household items as well as fast fashion, but fast fashion is their biggest sales department. And so, yeah, a lot of that, the things that we import are unfortunately fast fashion. And, a lot of that is polyester, which is plastic. And yeah.
Do you think people are aware of that, just what those clothes are made up of and therefore what goes into landfill?
Yeah, we did a polling, and according to our polling, only about 27% are aware that it's made of plastic. So majority are not, unfortunately.
Now, we'll go to where the government can make changes in a moment, but firstly, to what extent do individuals take responsibility here for this, and to what extent should the clothing industry?
Well, according to our polling, I think roughly about 52% feel that the consumers should take responsibility. However, we feel like the government should take responsibility because, with the cost of living crisis, convenience, consumers, they're responsible to an extent. However, the government needs to put in more rules, more policies to ensure that these fast fashion companies are taxed. We talk about introducing a French-style tax to curb the purchase of fast fashion and reduce the waste. Because it's better to turn off the tap of waste than try to manage the waste.
So government policy to make the clothing industry act on this?
Absolutely, make the clothing industry responsible. I mean, the person who's creating the waste should be responsible for reducing and managing the waste, right?
Yeah, so tell us more about that, the government policy that can be used, the French-style fast fashion tax for one of them.
Yes, so the French-style fast fashion tax says about €5 per garment, which comes to roughly about $10 Australian dollars per garment. So we believe that this would reduce the purchasing of these fast fashion, ultra fast fashion garments, right? And that funding can go into an Australian circular economy textiles industry, funding Australian businesses, small and medium-sized, as well as large businesses, helping them scale. The ones particularly who are manufacturing circular ways, they're using natural textiles, they're using less toxic chemicals or no toxic chemicals, and they're manufacturing to eliminate waste and for regeneration purposes.
So in Australia, we've got the seamless scheme. Is that doing enough at this point?
Well, seamless is a good start towards the circular textiles industry. However, we need to. Seamless has a levy of 4 cents per garment for its circular purposes, and our research finds that we need to charge at least 50 cents per garment to be able to, cater for things like recovery and sorting and domestic recycling. It's a lot, and it costs a lot. Using volunteers alone is not going to work. Right.
Now, banning the export of textile waste, tell us what happens now and what would change if that were to be banned?
Yes, we recommend banning textile waste export because, there are, for example, the Basel Convention is a convention that guides, the export of waste to countries in the global south. They're putting motions in place to ban textile waste, global north countries banning textile waste to countries in the global south. And we need to get ahead of that and ban textile waste before we're forced to, just like, China back in 2017-18, stopped taking our recycling. And banning textile waste would force us rather would incentivize us to have domestic recycling here in Australia. And then it would also force businesses as well as retailers to take responsibility and accountability for their waste, as opposed to shipping it to countries where, it pollutes the land, it pollutes the beaches and the oceans, and also fills up their landfills and adds to emissions. So we're actually just pushing our waste onto somebody else to deal with and calling it recycling, which is not right.
Nina Gbor from the Australia Institute, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button to get notified when we publish a new one. See you next time.